move on and we can talk about Everton. Now, Pete, we've discussed Newcastle's position. What do you think Everton's stance is amidst this Man City case, given their two cases that we discussed last season that Everton faced?
I don't know what's going on at Everton. That's the big question. There's more questions around Everton than answers right now with the fall down in the 7-7 partners deal. They're just focusing on themselves right now. I'm guessing Everton rather than looking at anywhere else. And what's happening with Manchester City in the Premier League, they've got enough going on in their own house that they need to sort that out first. But yeah, I'm sure they're interested observers. There has been a few suggestions saying that they could be one of the teams that would back City's case in this Premier League legal battle. So that'll be an interesting one. Again, I'm sure they'll have their eyes further down the line on what happens when these 115 charges are heard by this independent commission as well. Obviously, what's happened to Everton when they had those 2 points deductions against them this season, for them to stay up after having those points deductions was a remarkable achievement for me, that they secured Premier League survival and secured it quite comfortably. But yeah, for Everton right now, I don't think they can look at anything else apart from their own situation, and they need to sort this ownership issue out as soon as possible because they've got massive loans to be repaid, and obviously they've still got to pay off the new stadium, which they're due to move into after next season as well. So yeah, for me, Everton don't need to be looking at anybody else's cases right now. They just need to get their own house in order.
Paul, do you think that 777 could return actually and demand those 200 million loans back? Do you think there could be any chance that they could come calling for the money? And how much of a concern should it be for Evertonians at this present moment with the ongoing situation, as Pete's just discussed?
Listen, there are a continuing ongoing concern. Everton fans have got used to the situation that the club's in. It's one thing after another. But I actually think they've dodged a bullet with this one, missing the 777 investment. I think it's been going on for too long. I think you look at their other clubs, you look at their other businesses. From day one, there was a black cloud hanging over this 777 takeover. There was a lot of question marks over it. And I think it was a case of, look, Mashiri, the points deductions, everything else, well, great, we've got a takeover. Actually, when you look into it, maybe the takeover is not that great. And the longer it's gone on, you can see that it's obviously not one that's going to work now. But obviously, during the course of that time, a lot of things came to light that probably they weren't going to be a very good custodian of Everton Football Club. Yes, they are owed a lot of money in loans, and obviously, if you've loaned people money, you're going to want it back. But there's got to be some kind of agreement in there. You would like to think that boardroom level, the loan agreements are put in place as and when a takeover happens. If it wasn't to be the 777 group, you would think that somebody there has had the nous to put the clauses in the contract that they can't, if they don't do the takeover, they can't immediately claw their money back, because that puts the football club into huge danger. That puts them into financial trouble immediately. There's got to be something in there that says that the money will be repaid back at a certain point when a level of investment is found that will leave the club stable and it's able to move forward. But for Everton fans and for the football club, it's just more uncertainty. But now a suitable owner has to be found. The takeover has to be done. But I do think it's a good thing that the 777 partnership have actually moved away. I think it's a good thing for the fans. I think it's a good thing for the club that now the correct custodian has to be found.
And Pete, but in terms of other potential suitors, please, are there any names that have appeared over the last few days? Is John Textor still in the race, as we discussed? Who are we expecting, and how long are we expecting this now to go on for potentially?
Well, Everton fans will be hoping it doesn't go as long as the 7-7 partners deal, which dragged on horrifically from September up until the end of May there, when they finally failed to meet the deadline to get the takeover done. Yeah, John Textor does seem to be one of the leading parties for this. Obviously, he's had interest in other clubs. Crystal Palace, he's a shareholder there. So it's not a straightforward deal for him, because obviously Premier League rules state that you can't have ownership of more than one club in the Premier League as well. So he would need to sell his stake in Crystal Palace to allow him to then pursue his interest in Everton. I think he is looking for a bit of leeway from the Premier League over a timescale of maybe could he pursue his interest in Everton while he's looking to sell his stake in Crystal Palace as well.
To interrupt you, just out of interest, from a supporter's point of view, do you know what he actually owns in Crystal Palace? Does he have a big stake in Crystal Palace? And is he looking to do the full takeover of Everton, or does he want a part of the thing? Because that's something that I don't know. We talk about him of dual ownership. What's his percentage ownership at Palace, and what would he have to do? Is he looking to do a full takeover at Everton?
I think ideally he would like a full takeover of Everton. I think he has got quite a high ownership of Crystal Palace with Steve Parish and another partner as well. I think off the top of my head, I think it might be around 40%. So it's not
Right.
the straightforward deal to do, as I said, for John Textor. But he's obviously put his cards on the table. He's come out openly and publicly admitted that he would be interested in a deal for Everton. He probably sees Everton, no disrespect to Crystal Palace, as being a bigger project than them, obviously due to their tradition and history of the club and the fan base as well. They're moving to the new stadium, so he's obviously willing to try and get a deal done for Everton. Again, he's had other interests in other clubs across the world in Europe. He's got investment in Botafogo in Brazil, also in Lyon in France as well. So he's obviously a very wealthy man, and obviously he's invested in other football clubs as well. I just think anybody right now for Everton will be better than 7-7 partners. As you said, Paul, they dodged the bullet, I think, with that one. That was never going to happen for me, as we've talked previously on other pods as well. So
you called it about 6 months ago. You said it wasn't happening when it first came into fruition.
And Pete, in terms of potentially someone else, so instead of John Textor, is there a chance potentially that MSP could step in as a stopgap for the year? And where would Farhad Moshiri sit within all of this going on?
Yeah, obviously Moshiri is still open to selling the club. That's not changed. Obviously, this whole 7-7 partners deal got very messy, which he wouldn't have wanted. He wanted to sell his majority stake in the club, and that's not going to change. He feels there's a better guardians out there for Everton in the future. He's obviously plowed a lot of his own money into Everton over the years, and not had very little return for it. MSP have obviously given these loans to 7-7 partners to keep the club afloat over the last 7 or 8 months as well. So obviously MSP are two local businessmen who are big Evertonians as well. So if you were looking from an Everton point of view or a fan's point of view, they would be the ideal potential new owners of the club. If they've got the club at heart, that you want people who have got the well-being of the club at heart and big fans to take over. That's what everybody's ideal scenario. If there was a takeover to happen of your club, you'd want guardians who obviously do care about the club to take it, rather than unknown foreign entities or anything like that. But I think there'll be a lot of interest in Everton. I think there'll be a lot. We've seen so much American investment in the Premier League as well, so I'm sure there's a lot of American businessmen, companies, hedge funds all looking at it as a potential investment as well. So although it's still a bit unclear, the financial situation at Everton, and obviously there's a bit of scaremongering and everything, I do think there will be an attractive proposition to a lot of people out there as well. So yeah, I think positive signs out there that hopefully something could happen for Everton fans, that they can finally get this takeover done.
You've just watched a segment from Football Insider's brand new podcast, The Inside Track, with me, Lewis Pearce, alongside the guests on the show. Thanks very much for tuning in. Please do give the video a like, comment your thoughts on the topic, and feel free to share on your social media pages. If you want to listen to the full podcast episode, click the link in the description below. Keep your eyes peeled for plenty more content and exclusives here on The Inside Track.